Welcome to the Shermer High Alumni Association. I'm Janine,
And I'm Carol.
and we rewatch movies from the 80s to determine, did that age well?
This week's movie is Short Circuit. Before AI was everywhere and smart devices ran our lives, there was Johnny Five, a military robot who gets struck by lightning, gains a mind of his own, and suddenly just wants one thing: input.
Grab your popcorn, input some data, and get ready to malfunction with us as we rewind, rewatch, and remember the decade that shaped number five and all of us.
Well, hello.
Hi,
How are you?
totally phenomenal. How are you?
I am just great. Just
That's
great.
That's fantastic. How was your
Yeah.
week?
Oh, still dealing with storm damage.
Oh, that's so much fun.
But they started our drywall today. So
Oh,
we have progress.
I'm glad that you're getting this done quickly.
Well, we had to, even without insurance money coming through yet. You gotta nip it in the butt. Can't have mold.
It's true. It's true.
So, for the
Nobody,
safety of us and everyone around us, we are proactive.
that's great.
So, yeah, I love going out and spending a lot of money replacing everything that you already had.
It is always fun. And just when you think that like things can't get worse, they always do.
And this could have been way worse. We are very blessed to only have what damage we did. A lot of people lost their homes and cars and
That's
have
true.
it way worse. So this is just a little notch, but
That's
still a pain
true.
in the ass.
And that's why like we did have like some siding that got ripped off. We do have like just a small amount of damage. And that's why I'm like I'm just going to wait until like all the people who really needed like all these contractors to help them, I'll wait until they, like get their stuff fixed.
Yeah.
And
I
then I
mean,
can get these pieces of siding replaced cuz it's just like little stuff.
yeah.
But it's like way up on my house, so it's not like a place that we can reach. So we just have like when you drive by, you're like, that's weird that they just
Yeah.
have this exposed wood on the side of their house. But, one
When
day
when
we'll
you have
get there.
storms, you kind of see it
Yeah.
scattered
I'm
throughout,
I'm
but
just so glad that I found the pieces
that's true.
because we have aluminum siding and that's just not like something that's easily replaced.
This is very true. So, I mean, in the grand scheme of things going on in the world and with other
Mm.
people, these are Polly Pocket problems. So, we're fine.
You're, you're right. You're right. We are
Perspective,
blessed.
Janine. We are blessed.
We really are.
How's your week been? Was it take your tiny to work day?
It was not because it rained.
Oh no.
She
Yeah,
is
Tiny won't do that.
deathly afraid of rain and she predicts it, so she knows. Like, hey, buddy, sorry, I
Mm.
can't go because it's going to rain. And I had to look at the weather because I was like, why is she being so weird? And I looked and I was like, oh, it's going to rain today. And also, she probably needs a bath. And people always comment, like, oh, your dog's kind of stinky.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I would never be that bold with somebody.
And like, she's not stinky. So it's like, I don't,
Are these people that have, I mean, you have your own office, correct?
yes.
So these aren't people that have to sit by the dog all day to the point where then they would say, "Hey, can she have a little bath? Can she have a bathers?" But not like I would
No,
never do that.
no.
That's bold.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So she's also a dog.
Right.
So,
Take the good with the bad. People.
yeah, I mean, I get it. She's an old lady. And she
Yeah.
does like to be at home on rainy days with her dad in bed because he works third shift.
Herkel Dirklin.
She does like to herkle durkle. And so, he's in bed all day. So she figures if I can sleep all night and sleep all day, then
Sign me up.
right, why not? So she made the decision to stay home.
Okay.
But, that's what's nice about her position at work is that, she can choose whether or not she actually wants to go to work, unlike some people that have to actually go to work every day.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say, was she a no call, no show? But it sounds like she warned you
She
that she
does no call,
wasn't.
no show, but I'm not her boss.
Mm,
I keep telling her she's
she
going to
should
end up
get
getting
sh
fired,
she should get written up.
but you know what? Her boss didn't even ask if she was there. And
Didn't even bring a treat in case she
he d-
was.
he didn't come in.
Oh.
He was in Sandusky, so he didn't know.
Oh.
And she
Well,
has at work dog treats, so
so she didn't really miss out on much today.
and I could probably cover for her. So
That's true.
I could just be like, "Yep, she was here. You missed out."
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe next week we'll see. But she makes her own dog decisions.
Yes, yeah, good for her.
I know. She's lucky, very lucky.
Should we
So,
go over our movie?
yeah. If you haven't figured it out, the movie kicks off when a high-tech military robot number 5 is struck by lightning during a power demo, causing a tactical malfunction that accidentally gives him a soul. Intrigued by input, he wanders off base and he meets Stephanie, an animal lover who feeds him encyclopedias and TV commercials until he's basically a walking, talking 80s pop culture encyclopedia. The plot thickens when number 5 realizes that disassemble is just a polite military word for death, leading to a high stakes game of a cat and mouse as his nerdy creator, Newton Crosby, and a bunch of trigger happy soldiers try to hunt him down. After learning about mortality by accidentally crushing a grasshopper, number 5 uses his superior robotic brain to outsmart the army in a climactic showdown, faking his own destruction with a clever decoy made of scrap metal. The film wraps up with the robot officially naming himself Johnny Five and escaping to a peaceful life in Montana, proving once and for all that he's more than just a pile of wires and lasers. Johnny Five is alive.
Oh yeah,
Hell yeah.
I love that. So we have a pretty good crew here. We start out with Allie Sheedy, whose real name is Alexandra Elizabeth Sheedy. That's got a nice flow to it. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
She was born June 13th of 1962 and is an American actress. She made her feature film debut in Bad Boys in 1983 and came to prominence as a member of the Brat Pack with roles in Oxford Blues in 84, The Breakfast Club in 85, St. Elmo's Fire in 1985, and Blue City in 1986. She received 3 Saturn Award nominations for Best Actress for her performances in War Games in 1983, Fear in 1990, and Man's Best Friend in 1993. For playing a drug addicted lesbian photographer in High Art in 98, Sheedy won the Independent Spirit Award for Best Female Lead. She also had significant roles in the films Twice in a Lifetime in 85, Short Circuit in 86, Betsy's Wedding in 90, Only the Lonely in 91, and A Life During Wartime in 2009. As of 2021, Sheedy has been a professor in the theater department at the City College of New York. From 2022 to 2023, she played the role of Carol in the freeform series Single Drunk Female. She was 23 when she was in this film, and her character's name is Stephanie. Like,
You
she
know,
was a busy girl.
she really was.
Sheesh.
Yeah, she was just,
Like, between 83 and 86, she was just on fire.
yeah, she was really like putting out those films, man.
Whew. Busy girl.
So, yeah, so we also have Steve Gutenberg, who was born Stephen Robert Gutenberg. He was born August 24th, 1958. He is an American actor, an author, a businessman, a producer, and a director. He is known for playing Carrie Mahoney in the Police Academy films from 84 until 87. He also acted in Three Men and a Baby in 87 and its 1990 sequel, as well as films Diner in 82, Cocoon in 85, Short Circuit in 86, The Bedroom Window in 87, The Big Green in 95, and A Novel Romance in 2011. On television, he started his career in the CBS sitcom Billy in 1979. He has had recurring guest roles as Woody Goodman in the teen mystery series Veronica Mars from 2005 until 2006, Wayne Hastings Jr. in the HBO dramedy series Ballers from 2017, and Dr. Catman in the ABC sitcom The Goldbergs from 2017 until 2023. He was a contestant during season 6 of the dance competition series Dancing with the Stars in 2008. In 2025, Gutenberg starred in the Lifetime film Kidnapped by a Killer, the Heather Robinson story, where he portrayed John Edward Robinson. He was 27 years old in this film, and he plays Newton Crosby.
Mm-hmm. We also have Austin Pendleton, who was born Austin Campbell Pendleton, who was born March 27th of 1940. He's an American actor, playwright, and theater director. Pendleton was born in Warren, Ohio. Woo woo.
Yay!
He graduated from the University School, a private all-boys school in Shaker Heights, Ohio, in 1957. Pendleton is known as a prolific character actor on the stage and screen, whose 6-decade career has included roles in films including Catch 22 in 1970, What's Up, Doc 1972, The Front Page 74, The Muppet Movie in 79, Short Circuit in 86, Mr. and Mrs. Bridge in 1990, My Cousin Vinny in 92, Mr. Nanny in 93, Guarding Tess in 94, Amistad in 97, A Beautiful Mind in 2001. Whew. Which earned him a Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance by a Cast in a Motion Picture nomination, and Finding Nemo in 2003. Pendleton received a Tony Award nomination for Best Direction of a Play for the Broadway revival of The Little Foxes in 1981, starring Elizabeth Taylor. He received Obie and Drama Desk Awards for outstanding performance in The Last Sweet Days of Isaac in 1970, and an additional Special Drama Desk Award for being a Renaissance Man of the American Theater in 2007. He received an additional Obie Award for directing the off Broadway revival of Three Sisters in 2011. Pendleton's recent Broadway credits include acting in Choir Boy in 2016 and The Minutes in 2022, and directing Between Riverside and Crazy also in 2022. He was 46 years old when he was in this film, and he plays Dr. Howard Marner.
We've also got Fisher Stevens, who's actually named Stephen Fisher. He was born,
Weird.
I know, I didn't know that. He was born November 27th, 1963, and he is known professionally as Fisher Stevens. He is an American actor, director, producer, and writer. As an actor, he is best known for his portrayals of Ben Jabatua in Short Circuit in 1986 and Short Circuit 2 in 88. He is also a documentary filmmaker, having won the Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature as one of the producers of The Cove in 2009. He also directed the documentaries Crazy Love in 2007 and Before the Flood in 2016. Stevens is known for his roles in films such as Reversal of Fortune in 90, Bob Roberts in 92, Hackers in 95, Anything Else in 2003, and Hail Caesar in 2016. He has acted in the Wes Anderson films The Grand Budapest Hotel in 2014, Isle of Dogs in 2018, The French Dispatch in 2021, and Asteroid City in 2023. In television, he portrayed Chuck Fishman in the CBS series Early Edition from 96 until 2000, Marvin Gerards on NBC's The Blacklist from 2015 until 2022, Gabriel Kovac in CBS's The Good Fight from 2017 until 2020, and Hugo Baker in the HBO drama series Succession from 2019 to 2023. He was 22 years old when he was in this film, and he plays Ben.
And this was directed by John Badham, who also plays an unaccredited cameraman role in the sequence of the film depicting number five watching the movie Saturday Night Live, and imitating John Travolta's dance moves, which is an inside joke as John Badham also directed Saturday Night Fever.
Which is also one of my favorite movies.
Yes. Fun facts there.
Fun fact, Janine loves disco. This was written by S.S. Wilson and Brent Maddock.
And this was released May 9th of 1986. So we are wishing Short Circuit a very happy 40th birthday.
Woohoo! Happy
Yay! Happy
birthday!
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Short Circuit! Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday to
to
you.
you!
And it's rated PG.
Yay!
Was had a budget of $15 million.
Wow.
They dug into that. And number five was the most expensive part of the film, requiring several different versions to be made for different sequences. Almost everything else in the film was relatively inexpensive, allowing them to allocate as much money as they needed for the robot character.
I bet.
Yeah, yeah. So it brought in 40.7 million.
It was a box office smash.
It was. I actually did not expect that. It debuted number one in the US box office with a studio reported weekend gross of 5.3 million, although independent sources suggested that the gross was inflated and more likely between 4.5 and 4.7, but whatever. And this was filmed primarily around Astoria, Oregon, with additional scenes shot in the Columbia River Gorge and the Beaverton area. Iconic locations include Stephanie's house in Astoria and Bonneville Dam and the Astoria Megler Bridge.
Nice.
So much information,
I know.
but good stuff.
Yeah,
So, is this your first time? Have you watched this before?
I have, but it's been like 115 years.
Okay. Is
And
it what
so,
you remembered it to be?
no,
Okay.
no. I think I just remember like specific lines from the movie. I remember Stephanie being in the bathtub. I
Mm-hmm.
remember just certain scenes from it, but I don't remember like the whole movie.
Same. I remember certain aspects of it, but the whole plot, I could never really formulate and put that together in my tiny brain. But
My
now
husband
it's
could,
together.
yeah, my husband can like recite the whole movie.
Why?
I don't know.
Does he have a passion for it that strong?
Apparently, yes. Yes.
Okay. So do you just walk around and say input?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe we should have had him on.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he just woke up and I had to force him to get up. So
Nah.
he's probably not too happy. Yeah.
Well, let's get into it.
All right, I'm ready. We start this movie off with some machines. They're doing some stuff, and there's some 80s music playing. And then we see some military vehicles that are driving across a field. They're smashing some flowers. And we see some robots that are hiding in these bunkers. And they're blowing up some trucks and they return fire. And then we realize that the men that are on those trucks are actually mannequins. Turns out this was a military demonstration. The robots then introduce Dr. Marner, who's the president of Nova Robotics, and he proceeds to show off these robots. Each robot has a number, and the robots proceed to make him a gin and tonic. It suddenly starts raining, and everybody kind of runs inside. Ben, who is Dr. Crosby's assistant, runs to fetch Newton Crosby, who is the designer of the robots, because he has to go hobnob with the bigwigs so that they can get funding for these robots. Military people and the senator are all schmoozing and eating horsey duvers and drinking Long Island iced teas. And they plan to launch the robots into enemy lines and they call it Operation Gotcha Last. So their plan is to actually use these robots as military decoys to kind of go into enemy lines and shoot people, I guess. A couple of the guys are working outside and they notate that number 5 robot needs to be moved inside just as lightning strikes and ends up actually hitting the number 5 robot. They think that the robot is fried, but upon looking at him, he appears to be okay. And the robots are sent inside, and it's pretty obvious that there is something wrong with this number 5 robot. Number 5 is distracted by another robot that is serving coffee, and then he is swept away by a garbage robot that pushes him into a garbage truck. That garbage truck takes number 5 out of the facility, where he jumps from the truck and ends up in a cow pasture. Dr. Crosby attempts to track where number 5 is located but is unsuccessful. And number 5 has made it outside the fenced in area, and they're concerned that he may harm someone out there. So they need to find him, and the brigade heads out to look for him. So the security dudes catch up to number 5 and they end up pushing him across a bridge with their tank. Number 5 scares them and they end up hitting the brakes on the tank, launching number 5 off of the bridge, and he engages a parachute, which, why did they put a parachute on this robot? Oh, then again, I guess if he's going into enemy lines, I guess that makes sense.
I thought that was a baller move.
Yeah. I mean, he really knew what he was doing. Meanwhile, Crosby and Ben are tracking number 5, and the tracking is going berserk. Number 5 lands on a truck called Stephanie's Snack Shack. Stephanie then pulls in her driveway to find her ex boyfriend is trying to steal her dog to give him to a medical research lab.
What the fuck?
Yeah, boo.
Like, this was so random.
Yes.
And
So
everything.
what was his name? Frank. He's a piece of shit. Like
Yeah.
he's just trying to like get rid of whatever he can to like make money.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to like lure her dog into this cage so he can sell her dog to a research
Yeah.
lab.
GTFO, Frank.
Yeah, no thank you.
God. I would have punched him in his balls.
Yeah, me too. She has a baseball bat. I would have beat the shit out of that
Yeah,
dude.
and I'll just say right now that her fighting skills in this movie are subpar. Like she's
Yeah.
just one of those little kids just like whapping at things.
Yeah,
It's like
please.
learn how to fight, girl.
I mean, she does hit his car a few times with the baseball bat, so
It was
she
just like bad acting fighting.
I mean, A for effort. She
Sure.
does try. So Stephanie stops him from taking her dog. It's pretty obvious that she's an animal lover because there are animals everywhere.
Everywhere.
She tries to take a baseball bat to his car, which is it a Trans Am? Is it a It's a firebird. It's a firebird. She tries to take a baseball bat to his firebird. He ends up pushing her on the ground. And now Ben and Crosby are headed out to look for number five. And Ben makes a remark about how girls are out in the world and girls have brasiers and legs. So this is where we
Wow.
first realize that,
They're dorks.
yeah, and Ben is kind of strange.
Yeah.
Um, so Stephanie is now on a phone call and she looks out her window and she sees that something is going on in her snack shack truck. So she yells out the door, "Hey, get out of there." And she goes out to investigate and the window to the truck opens and she comes face to face with number five. And she realizes there's a robot on her snack shack. And she says, "Oh my God, I knew that they would pick me. I just knew it." Assuming that he's an alien, which
Hmm.
he's not. And she tells number five, like, "I'm a friend. I'm not going to hurt you." And she ends up actually bringing number five into her house. So Stephanie shows number five all the cool stuff that is in a house: floors, ceilings, windows, air, goldfish, pictures. And he decides to read all of the encyclopedias that she has. Number five is rude and he starts breaking things in her house. And Stephanie's like, "Here," and puts him in front of a TV. So now he's watching the Three Stooges. He watches TV the entire night long. And he can now recite TV commercials in the voice of the TV commercials. Beasley the dog knocks number five over the porch railing into the chicken coop, where Stephanie discovers that number five is from Nova Laboratories and he's a robot prototype. And Stephanie thinks that she must be stupid for believing that number five was alive when he's really a robot from the dumb war lab. Stephanie calls Nova and tells them that she has number five, and they say they're on their way to go come and get him, and that they will have to disassemble him to figure out what's wrong with him. Number five is out in the yard of her house, and he finds a grasshopper, and he starts imitating a grasshopper hopping. And so, to picture it, he's this robot with these almost triangular conveyor belt wheels.
Hmm.
And he sort of props them up and he's bouncing across the grass. And he ends up actually squashing this grasshopper. And Stephanie ends up having to explain to him what death is because he makes a comment about how, well, we can just reassemble this grasshopper. Once it comes apart, you just reassemble it because that's what you do with robots. But Stephanie has to explain to him that living beings can't be reassembled. And number five figures out that disassemble actually means death. It doesn't mean that you can necessarily reassemble it. So he figures out that the lab is going to essentially make him dead. So he proceeds to jump in the snack shack and read the manual in like 1 second in order to learn how to operate it, and he steals it. And he's driving around causing chaos, running into people's garbage cans. Crosby and Ben are tracking it from their van. Number five almost drives the snack shack into the lake. And number five freaks out when Crosby and Ben find them. So Ben acts awkwardly towards Stephanie. Stephanie actually, she ends up in the snack shack because she's trying to stop him from driving. So when Ben actually comes face to face with Stephanie, he's all like weirded out because she's a girl. And Stephanie is telling them, like, "Hey, I'm not the one who was actually driving the truck. It was number five who was driving it." And Ben responds, like, "Yeah, there's no way that happened." And he says, "Oh, bull dyke, you cannot hold water with that story, girl." And I rewound
Why?
that a few times because I'm like, what?
Why?
I don't know. Number five tries to explain that he is not just a robot, he's alive. and he's trying to explain himself. And just then the military arrives and they start shooting at him. And number five shoots back, and the military dudes shoot him repeatedly. Crosby ends up powering number five down, and he tells everyone to load him up in the truck, and Stephanie freaks out. And when Ben leaves, he says, "Bye bye, goofy woman. I enjoyed repeatedly throwing you to the ground." I had to notate
Wow.
all of Ben's creepy lines because
Yeah.
he's a creep. So while they're transporting number five back, he turns back on. He grabs a wrench that's in the truck and he uses that to turn on his controls. And he fixes himself in the back of the truck while they're just driving. And they realize that he's now alive again. And they stop. And number five is pissed. His eyes are red. Ben is like, "Yeah, I'm just going to scream and run." Number five steals the van and he takes off. And number five is jamming out to the song "Who's Johnny" on the radio. That's the one of the things that I remember from the movie was the song.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think they heavily promoted the song. Number five realizes that he's being tracked. So he can see it on the tracking screen in the van. And he realizes that something on him is beeping like it is on this tracking screen. So he takes that tracking device off and he throws it into this passing truck with this old couple in it. And the military ends up finding the old couple and stops them, but they don't find number five. So then news reporters show up at Stephanie's house and they're asking her, like, "Where's this robot? Do you know where he's located?" And she's in a robe when they show up at her
Yeah.
house. Frank decides that he's going to earn that reward money because they put out a $25,000 reward for anybody who finds number five. And so number five actually shows up at Stephanie's house, and Stephanie is in the bathtub. And he comes in and he's like, he tells Stephanie that she has nice software. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll gloss over that. So she agrees to let number five stay for one night, and she can't get caught because then who would take care of all of her animals? So Crosby and Ben are headed out to find number five again. Crosby is excited. Ben says, "This is the very first vehicle that I have stolen in the US of A. With excitement like this, who is needing enemas?"
What? Okay.
Dr. Marner catches them trying to go save number five, and he tells them not to bother since soldiers are out there with bazookas and choppers. And Crosby tells Dr. Marner that he has to understand because he's a scientist and they have to at least try to get number five back there, you know? And Marner ends up pulling a gun on them and tells them that he's a businessman and he tries to force them upstairs, but Crosby says no. And he's like, "You're just going to have to shoot me." And he ends up getting in the van and basically tells Dr. Marner, like, "You're full of it. I know you're not going to shoot me." And he squeals out of there. And so back to number five, he's at Stephanie's house and he's just watching Saturday Night Fever and he's doing some disco dancing and he's imitating John Travolta. Number five and Stephanie dance together to "More Than a Woman." They talk about how number five wants to live with Stephanie. And number five is now singing, "More Than a Woman" to me to Stephanie, which is funny. I don't want to imitate it because I would sound terrible, but like 80s robot singing "More Than a Woman," it's like, it's just really funny.
More than a
Um,
woman to me.
yes, yes, that's what it sounds like. And now Frank is driving like an asshole in his Firebird, all over the streets of this town, trying to find number five. And we see number five, who's now attempting to make pancakes, and he's making a freaking mess. He doesn't understand by reading the recipe that, like, he's supposed to, take the eggs out of their shells. He just puts everything all together and he's mixing it to make pancakes for Stephanie.
It
Frank,
was so cute, but he
it was
failed
cute.
miserably.
And he takes like the whole box of those frozen hash browns and he just puts the whole box on the burner. And so things are starting to burn. But Frank then just shows up at Stephanie's house with a shotgun And he attempts to trick number five into coming with him so that he can return him to Nova so he can get the $25,000 reward, which he claims he's going to give Stephanie $5,000 out of it, but he's full of shit. Frank tells number five that he's taking him to Nova, and number five ends up pushing Frank to the ground and gets away. Number five then goes outside and he disassembles Frank's Firebird.
And he
Oh, yeah,
disassembles it.
he disassembles. I mean, he takes it apart into like a million pieces all over Stephanie's lawn. And it's hilarious because Frank comes outside and he is pissed. And he starts shooting number five with the shotgun. And number five actually dodges every bullet because he's holding the rotors and he's like literally just dodging every bullet.
He's awesome.
It is awesome. And he's acting like a cowboy. So he's repeating, I don't know if he's repeating like a show or a commercial, but he's using a cowboy voice. And so Frank ends up hitting number five with a pipe and he falls over. And then Stephanie tackles Frank, and Frank puts his hands on Stephanie, and that makes number five really mad. So number five uses his lasers to disassemble Frank. And Stephanie tells number five that he's got to get out of there because Frank is now going to call Nova and the cops. Ben and Crosby are hightailing it out to find number five again. Ben calls Scroter Scrotum, and he comes over the radio telling them that she's headed southeast. So he's talking about Stephanie. They're tracking her snack shack, van, truck, whatever. And he says, the truck is headed southeast and all the roads are blocked. The only way she can get out of here is if she goes up into the mountains. And so Crosby and Ben, they stop and they're kind of talking about like, where would she go? How can we catch her? And Crosby says that he understands why number five likes Stephanie because she's kind of pretty. And Ben says, well, she's probably a virgin, or at least she used to be.
What? Okay, no shit, Sherlock. Every girl is a virgin at one point, but what the?
So, yeah. They get a radio message from Howard saying that Stephanie wants to see Crosby alone. And Ben tells him, oh, her pants are blazing for you, Newton Crosby. So they meet at the Black Lion Inn, which is a bar. And Stephanie tries to explain to Crosby that number five is actually alive. Like, he's not just a robot. He's like alive. He has feelings. He's more than a robot, man. Like,
Emotions and thought.
yeah. And, you know, even though Crosby didn't want Scroter there, he's there and he's like in disguise at the bar. So is the security dude that was in the van earlier. So number five is being chased by other robots, number two and number one. Number five ends up like he's out in the woods playing baseball with number one. And while Stephanie's having this meeting with Crosby, I don't
Yeah,
know, they were entertaining themselves out there. And then number five ends up at some fishing hut that's out there and
yeah,
collects a bunch of tools and rope. And then because I think number two decides that he's trying to catch number five, because that's what
yeah,
they were sent out there for, was to catch number five.
right.
So number five gathers all these tools and this rope, and he sees number two is after him. So he looks at number two and he says, "Hey, Laser Lips, your mama was a snowblower." And number two gets caught in a trap that was set by number five, like a rope trap. And number five ends up powering down number one and number two. So now they're out of commission. And then he throws, I think it was number three. I don't know what happened to number four. Maybe number four didn't come there.
I know, this
He
was like the Home Alone of robots.
Yes, he throws them into an outhouse, and Scroter and the security dude reveal themselves to Crosby at the bar. And then Stephanie calls Crosby a bastard. He's like, she's like, I told you to come here alone. She thinks that Crosby set this up. And so number five ends up busting through the wall to help Stephanie escape. and they jump in the snack shack and they take off as the military trucks are approaching. And now they're being chased. So they're going through the, I don't know, back roads somewhere. Number five uses his lasers to cut down a tree to block the path of the military vehicles. Scroder says, "This little fart of a robot is beginning to give me the red ass."
What does it mean?
I don't
The
know.
red ass.
Like he has a big red monkey butt?
Right.
I
Do you need some
don't know.
ointment?
Like, have you been sitting for too long and you need like a sitz bath or something?
Yeah.
I don't
It's
know.
awkward. We don't need to
Poor
know your
guy.
personal problems.
So then they kind of say, well, where are the other robots? Like, they should have caught number five by now. And the robots show up, and number five has reprogrammed all the other robots to be the Three Stooges.
I love that.
And Crosby thinks it's hilarious that number five was able to do this. And you can see on his face that he's kind of like getting it now that number five is actually more intelligent than just some stupid robot that he thought he was. So Ben comes back to pick up Crosby at the Black Lion Inn, and he wants to know if Stephanie stuck her tongue down his throat and
Bro.
says, and he says, I need to know because I'm sporting a tremendous Woody.
Yeah. Oh my, this guy is unhinged.
So number five suddenly opens the back door to the truck and he forces Ben out and he makes Crosby drive. And they go back to Stephanie's snack shack truck and they decide, okay, we're going to go look at the stars. So number five took Crosby as a hostage. I don't know. So Crosby sees that number five is all rewired and that he rewired all of his own switches. He did that all himself. And Crosby tries to figure out how this could have happened. And Crosby realizes that number five is somewhat human now. Like, he goes over how number five could have rewired himself. Like, number five somehow figured out how to completely reprogram everything that he was.
Mm-hmm.
So he was smart enough to figure out how to change everything. And they stay up all night trying to figure this out. At one point, number five ties Crosby's shoelaces together, and number five thinks that's hilarious. And
Because it is.
finally, it is funny, and he falls over. And at one point, Crosby's like, I got it. I think I figured this out. And so Crosby tells this bad joke. I don't remember what the joke was. It was something stupid. And number five starts laughing at the joke. And Stephanie and Crosby realize that he's laughing. And Stephanie's like, what's going on? And Crosby's like, he's having a spontaneous emotional response. And number five's like, I am alive, yes. And Crosby's like,
Aw.
yeah, yeah, yes, you are. And so Crosby and Stephanie hug and they start kissing.
So good.
Just like, what?
Like, why does there always have to be some sort of love story to it?
Right. What? Why? And so now number five wants a kiss too, because obviously he's in love with Stephanie.
So I think they're
S-
taking away from number five's shine.
yeah, I
Like,
don't know. They didn't need to kiss. But anyway, so now Nova is approaching and they're pulling up in all their trucks and vans and the military or whoever. They run to so number five, Stephanie and Crosby, they all run to Crosby's van. Stephanie is like, I think we could just explain to these guys that like number five is alive. Like we could just explain to them what happened. And you know, Crosby's like, that's not gonna, I mean, this robot has cost them like $11 million. Like they want their robot back. And so all these armed men surround them. And Crosby is like, like I'm able to control number five's voice command module. Like I can control him. You don't have to take him, but they want their robot back. And, you know, they force them out of the van. Stephanie and Crosby get out and Crosby's like, number five, he's in the truck, he's safe, you can have him back, whatever. And these military guys come around the back of the van and they actually take um, Stephanie and Crosby and they kind of carry them away. And they end up actually like going to go after number five, but number five busts out the back of the truck and like the truck doors, and he just takes off into like the desert, and they start shooting at him. And this helicopter comes overhead and just blows number five to smithereens. And it's so sad.
Yeah.
Like, just so incredibly sad because you're like, why did they have to do that? They could have just gone and taken him and been like, you're going back. Like, sorry, you're a robot. But they just, the guy who was in charge of the military was like so infatuated with blowing stuff up and he wanted that helicopter there that he he got off by blowing up number five. And so Stephanie starts crying. Crosby is holding her. The dudes are all celebrating and laughing, and they're carrying out parts of number five. And Crosby and Stephanie, they leave, and Stephanie says, I'm not going to be okay for a while. And she's sort of slumped over in the van and crying. And Stephanie's like, I'm really sorry that you lost your job. And, Crosby says, "Well, I think I'm going to go to Montana because my dad left me some property and it's beautiful this time of the year." And just then, they hear number five's voice say, "Great idea." And they turn around and they see number five pop out of the floor of the truck. And he says, "They should cruise on up there and check it out." And number five says, "Hi, honey, I'm home." And it turns out that number five actually made a replica of himself out of spare parts that were in the back of that truck because he's a genius.
He is.
And they decide that they're going to drive to Montana, but they need to pick up Stephanie's animals first. Because, you never leave your pets behind.
Nope. It's a felony.
Pets are family.
Yep.
And number five is now driving. And he decides that he wants a new name, like Kevin or Dave or maybe Johnny. Johnny Five. That's cool. The end.
Aw. Johnny Five is alive.
He is. So,
Well, where did you watch this, Janine?
I watched it on Hoopla,
Hoopla.
which you can watch movies for free with your library card.
I love that.
Not a lot of movies are on there.
Okay.
But I will say that Short Circuit was. I started
Okay.
watching it on Tubi for free, but
Yes.
it kept buffering, buffering,
Oh,
buffering. And I was like, I'm done with this. I've got to find a better way. And then I found it on Hoopla, and all you have to do is put in your library card
yeah.
information and you get to watch it for free. Well, you check it out of the library
Right. Digitally.
digitally and you get it for 3 days.
I love it.
And then so you can also, so like I said, you can watch it for free on Tubi.
I
And then
watched
it's
it on
also,
Tubi,
yeah, and so it's also available on Apple TV, Amazon Prime, Fandango, and YouTube, but there is a fee for those.
naturally. Well, this movie actually got some award nominations. It was nominated in 1987 for the Saturn Awards for Best Science Fiction Film, nominated for Best Director and Best Special Effects. Did not win those, but it was at least nominated. It did win the BMI Film and TV Awards for Best Music, which was composed by David Shire. So
What?
go them. Oh, let's get to some critiques.
Yeah, let's do that.
So a Metascore on this was a 50. So it was right there in the middle. But the user score was generally favorable with a 7.1. which kind of correlates with the IMDb rating of 6.6 out of 10, which kind of correlates with the tomato meter being a tomato at 62% and the popcorn meter at 67%.
What did Roger Ebert say? He gave it 1.5 stars. There is a robot in Short Circuit that is really cute, if cute can apply to a robot. Its name is number five, and it moves and talks and even seems to think like something that is alive, even though we can see clear as day that it's made of tubes and wires and photoelectric cells. Number five is a prototype battlefield weapon that can maneuver, seek out enemy targets, and blast with its laser ray. The robot was designed by two guys named Sid Mead and Eric Allard, and they've created a milestone in its own way. Following ET and C3PO and R2D2, this artificial creature has a mind of and personality of its own, and it's very likable. It's a very likable little mechanical being that is a lot better than the movie it's in. Too bad that robots, unlike humans, cannot be discovered in one movie and go on to star in another. I'd like to see number five in a film more suitable for its talents. Okay, so he didn't like the movie, but he liked number five.
Okay, I respect that. I'll go with that. Gene Siskel gave it a 1 out of 4 and said the film has nowhere to go except to give us a predictable initial confrontation between Gutenberg and Sheedy over military weapons. Okay.
All right, all right. Variety magazine said scripters get credit for some terrific dialogue that would have been a lot less disarming if not for the winsome robot and Sheedy's affection for it. Gutenberg plays his best goofy self.
Okay. I respect that.
Oh, Vincent Canby of the New York Times said the movie, which has the clean, well scrubbed look of an old Disney comedy, is nicely acted by Miss Sheedy, who demonstrates a light comedy touch not unlike Amy Irving's and Mr. Gutenberg.
And Paul Attanasio of the Washington Post said in Short Circuit, there's nothing at stake, either emotionally or artistically or howsoever. And I mean nothing. But the movie's so diverting and so giddily oblivious to its own faults that it almost doesn't matter. Funny and paced at a gallop, it's a melt away movie made for summer nights.
Huh?
Yeah, I think all of these
Yeah.
are just kind of
Like, it's okay.
reaching up their asses to write something.
Yeah.
God.
Okie doke. Well,
Well, what did you think?
okay. As far as like, well, I'm sorry. I did all the notes, or the, you get to go first.
Commentary. Oh, I
Yeah.
yay! I get to go first.
Yep.
All right, so I'm gonna put it on the not really cringe scale, even though Ben had some weird lines. Wasn't offended by them. Yeah, I just kind of chalked it up as him just being a big inexperienced dork in life, which is fine. If you're gonna be a dork, but don't bring boobs and your heart on into it, please. That'd be great.
Yeah. We don't want to talk about your Woody.
No, not so much. Um, I like Steve Gutenberg. Thought he did very well. Ali Sheedy kind of got on my nerves. I kind of feel like her acting is pretty on par with every movie she does. So I was hoping to see a little change in character, but really haven't seen that too much in her between Breakfast Club and St. Elmo's Fire. But I loved the concept of number five. I thought he was pretty adorable, even though he was a jerk at sometimes. But I thought the premise was pretty
He's a
good.
he's a robot. I mean,
He's a robot, but he's got the feels, and I respect that. And I'm glad he survived in the end. So, yeah, I'm gonna go with a not really, even though it's kind of on the high end of that. And I think I probably would watch it if it was randomly on a station flipping through a guide. And I think it has aged well. Think it could be remade to be something pretty cool. Probably is the plot for many movies out there in some sort of way. But he is the original AI.
Yes. So I think that I'm between kind of and totally cringe. And the reason why is because of Ben.
Ben.
The problem that I have with Ben, which is pretty well known, is the fact that they cast a white man to play an Indian man. So this is a prominent example of Hollywood whitewashing. Um, they took someone and dyed his hair, put makeup on him, and gave him a fake accent instead of hiring an Indian actor.
Yeah, why couldn't they just do that?
Exactly. Um, and it has nothing to do with Fisher Stevens. It has everything to do with the production team. Um, they could have hired anyone else of Indian descent to play this character. And to me, that is bothersome. And then, the comments that his character makes, they're just cringy. I get it that they're nerdy, and there is nothing wrong with being nerdy. In fact, our sister, who's not on this podcast tonight because, she's just in Spain or something, is fairly nerdy. I think we all kind of have a little bit of nerdiness in us because we were raised by a nerdy dad. And it doesn't mean that because you're nerdy makes you a jerk.
You don't get a free pass for being crass.
Exactly. Yes, girls wear bras. Yes, girls have legs. Um, no, we don't just randomly stick our tongues down guys' throats. It I don't know. It's bothersome. It is cringy. That whole character is cringy. Now, if we subtract him from this movie, let's eliminate him. The rest of the movie is cute.
Yes,
It's cute. The storyline is cute. Number 5 is adorable. Frank is an asshole. The fact that he has no problem putting animals in danger or in harm's way, that's cringy to me also. Because I'm an animal lover and I would never want animals to be hurt or harmed.
nope.
Um, the fact that he was out for his own personal gain in order to turn number 5 in just so that he could get some money instead of, doing what's right. That's, you know, shitty. So fuck Frank. And, Stephanie, yeah, her character's kind of stupid, but besides that, it's a cute movie. I don't remember the whole storyline from when I was a child, but, if it came on, yes, I think I would rewatch it in part. Again, I don't think this is one of those movies that I would be like, I need to sit down and rewatch this whole movie because it was so good.
No,
But it was good.
it was
I
cute.
wouldn't say it was cute. I would say it was good. It wasn't great. So
Agreed.
I agree with, you know, the Metascore. I agree with, the tomato meter. Like
Yeah,
they're accurate. It's accurate.
I agree.
So that's the story of a Nova prototype who decided that he would rather read encyclopedias than blow things up. Short Circuit reminds us that life isn't about your factory settings. It's about the soul that you find in the software. Remember, Johnny Five is alive. And as long as you keep learning and feeling, so are you. No malfunctions allowed.
Thanks for joining us at the Shermer High Alumni Association. If you had as much fun as we did, hit follow, leave a review, and share this episode with your fellow 80s movie lovers. Until next time, be kind and don't forget to rewind.